Hello, hello. Actually, we are not just music. We're a live stream. That was coming from a question in YouTube. Hello, I'm John Park, and welcome to my workshop. This is the first John Park's workshop of 2018. Woohoo! Can you believe it? There's color everywhere. What do you mean by that? Uh-oh. Stuff with Kirby. What's going on? There's color everywhere. What could that mean? There is video, too. This is bananas. All right. Hey, so hello everybody. Hi, Julian. Hey, everyone in the YouTube chat, and hey, everyone over in the Discord chat. Welcome also to anyone on Periscope, Twitch, or Facebook, although I'm not monitoring the chat over there. If you want to hang out in the chat, come on over to Discord. You can check out the Adafruit site. Check out the blog for the blog post about this show that we're watching right here, right now, and you'll see some info about joining Discord for chat, or just head on over to YouTube. Hello from Paris, France. Scan pas. Salut, je suis français. Let's just do the rest of the show in French. I can't. I don't know French. William Worthy is watching this while playing on his Picade, which is definitely rad. Hello, Bartendu Anand from India. Hey, Yanni. Nice to see you. Happy New Year, everyone. I hope you had a great New Year. I was over on the East Coast of the United States for a little while, and it was freezing cold, so I'm kind of glad to be back in Los Angeles, where you can see it's t-shirt weather. Sorry. But it is. It's nice. So, what we've got today, I want to talk about some arcadey things. I've got a couple of arcade things to talk about. Stuff with Kirby's intrigued by the springy thing in the vise. That is something that I'll talk about in a future show. I'm just fixing it up. So, yes, sorry, Yanisku asked about me streaming yesterday. I did not stream yesterday. Normally I stream on Thursdays, and I will start again on next Thursday with my regular schedule of 4 p.m. Eastern Time in the U.S. On Thursdays. So, did I already make the arcade? Yeah, so I made this Picade, and actually I'll show you some build photos I took and talk through that a little bit if you want to take a little bit of a peek inside of the making of that. And then we're also going to then look at adding a coin collector to it. So that's kind of the project for the day, but I also have one, I think I had one bonus thing too, if we get to it, but we should get moving with this. So, hey Karibi, hello from freezing Ohio. Sorry, man. Sorry, from freezing Ohio. Lonnie O'Fern in Brazil, probably a little warmer. Yanni, you were surprised by this stream. Surprise! Here I am, in your home, beamed there. So, hey, here we go. If you're not familiar with the Picade, this is it. Let me switch this camera so that it's looking at my Picade. Let's see if I can give you a little view of that. Let's switch over to the down shooter. So that's the Picade, and it's got a ton of glare on it. Oh, you can see me. Hi. You can see me in the glare on that. Sorry about that. But there's just a bunch of glare because it's pointed up at a bunch of lights. So Picade is a Raspberry Pi arcade, as you may have guessed, and it's this one is from the great folks at Pimeroni in the UK. So it's a Raspberry Pi based RetroPie console with a very cool breakout board for handling buttons, sound. It's got this little integrated monitor. So you can see here, if I fire this up, you might even be able to hear that. It's got some speakers on the sides there. And actually I can volume up and down. So here's some Galaga. Oh, I paused. Why did I pause? There we go. Okay, so you get the idea. It has this cool little, I think it's an 8-inch screen on here. Let me jump back out to the menu. So that is the Picade, and I'll show you the build. So this is something I built right around the Christmas break. So I'm going to swap over to, if we can take a look here. So this is, I will run through my build just so you can live vicariously. If you enjoy this, that's awesome. I love watching builds go together. So that's what you get in the box. Very neatly put together little package with these plastic storage bins for a bunch of the parts, which are useful. I'm reusing those now. So I'm going to just tour you through some of the bits and pieces here. We have some shiny arcade buttons in there. We have that joystick, speakers, and all of the panels are made from MDF, which has been powder coated. So it's a pretty nice material, pretty sturdy. And the first thing you do is you end up putting on brackets to assemble the cabinet and hinges for the back door. Assemble the speakers into there. There is, by the way, I think at least an hour and a half video on the Pimeroni learning site if you want to watch someone really build it. I decided I didn't need to replicate that because that one did a nice job of it. But this is the little latch that holds the back door on. Sides going in, and you can see there's little cutouts for the arcade buttons on the sides and front panels there. They're starting to take shape. Throw on the top, screwing in the hinges. There's the back door. Back door is actually where the Raspberry Pi goes, or they've got spacing on there for some other boards like a Beagle Bone, I think. So you'll see, maybe you can see there's some little holes pre-drilled. This is a really nicely built cabinet, and a lot of fun in building and designing something like this, but it's also pretty great to see one that someone has already done all the incredibly time-consuming work of lining everything up and making it work well. So here we've got a laser-cut acrylic top that goes over some, what's the word I'm looking for? It goes over the marquee, no, graphic there, I guess. The marquee is up in the top. So you can change that graphic out if you want. And here's the joystick going in. Oh, there's the underside of the joystick. Everything's labeled nicely. Throw on the ball there, pop in the buttons. You can see it's all labeled. And then side buttons and front buttons go in. And we're actually going to take over one of these buttons for our coin acceptor today. So normally you can just press the button to get a new life in a game. If it's an arcade, like a MAME-style game, you can add on how many lives you're going to have. We're going to make that be a coin collector. Not to make a profit, because that would be illegal, but just for the fun of it. Here's the wiring harnesses, all really nicely. Again, wiring and interconnects can always be a big time-consuming job, and you can make a mess pretty easily, too, if you don't plan things out. So this is a really nicely planned out set of connectors. There's the board. That's the Picade board, which is used to deal with all the input and output of audio and buttons. And so here you can see I'm wiring up ground, common ground, as well as the 4 directions of the joystick. If you're not aware of this, a joystick like this, an arcade joystick, is a set of 4 snap switches. That's how it works. So there's 4 switches in there that are being connected to. And then the buttons being run. More buttons, more buttons, more buttons. And there you can see I'm starting to put in, these are the speaker connections for the side speakers left and right. So that output is handled here. There's also an audio out over on the other side if you want to hook up headphones to this. I haven't tried that yet, actually, but it's good if you want to be slightly quieter. And here nicely labeled outputs and inputs for the different buttons and suggested uses like escape, enter, 1-up, and so on, left, right, up, down. And then all the buttons are up at the top there with those screw terminals. All right, I'll cruise through this. Here you can see I'm starting to screw things in place. That little board's screwed down. I'm popping the control panel on temporarily. Someone asked, David Boyd asked over in one of our chats, I can't see which one, it does not come with the Raspberry Pi, or he answers the question, yeah, it does not come with the Raspberry Pi. You bring your own Pi and power supply. I think that's all you bring. So here's setup for the screen. Now the screen, this is my one sort of next upgrade that I want to do is track down a 12-inch HDMI panel, which is about the largest size that fits in there, which is of a 4:3 ratio that'll go nicely in the cabinet versus this smaller one. And this sort of VESA mount piece of acrylic that's been cut out will fit different sizes, a few different sort of standardish sizes of panels. So here you can see I'm setting it up with this little 8-inch, and there's a sort of black matte piece of paper that mats the screen out. So that lighter gray you see there is that's the matted out edges. And I'd like a big, huge screen in there, right? Right. There's the marquee. I'd like to put a different graphic up there too. That would be kind of fun. And also there's no lighting in this, so that'll be another fun project to mod this, is to add some interior lighting with some NeoPixels maybe. Maybe make it reactive or something fancy like that. Oh, I just blew by that. Yeah, so here you can see you just use sort of standard HDMI and USB cables to connect a bunch of stuff to the Pi inside of there. There's nothing proprietary or weird connector-wise. And here's some rubber feet going on. Me admiring the thing. It's looking nice. Doesn't do anything yet because there's no Pi in there. Hey, there's the Pi, so that goes on the back door. So I'm using a Raspberry Pi 3 on there for maximum oomph. So that's the audio connection connecting to that little breakout board, the Picade board. So that's output from the Pi that will go over to the board and then through its amplifier to the speakers or to its headphone jack. Here's me flashing the Raspberry Pi, oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name. What's the name of the image we use here? Picade, Picade, right? RetroPie, there we go. There's the little flash card inside of an adapter. There it is in the board, plugged in HDMI. I plugged in a mouse and keyboard temporarily. You do need to do that, and it's easier to just use a wired one. Otherwise, you have no way of configuring Bluetooth. So that's the first thing you do, is hook up a real mouse and keyboard to configure it, and then you can take those off later. You won't generally need those. And here's some setup stuff I won't go through. You'll see those in standard setup guides. And we had, with the AdaBox, trying to remember now, was it 05, right? 05, I think, was the Raspberry Pi one, or 4, one of those. We had the little Picade setup with the Joy Bonnet. And so if you look at that guide, you'll get a lot of tips on setting up some of these settings with your Picade. Hey, look, that's a good happy logo to see. And I'm smiling because I'm now setting up the buttons. So you go through and configure what button means what, which direction the joystick goes, and so on. And now I'm lowering the... why did I show that picture? I have no idea. I see a light on there. That's a happy sign, I guess. I don't know why I was there. And there's transferring some ROMs, some games onto the thing. Here's some pictures on our dining room table. And for a successful run of Galaga. So let me see if there's anything else to show here before we move on. Oh, I'm terrible at Joust. Okay, and that's the end, right? Yeah. All right. There we go. So now let's take a look at how we can set this up with a coin collector. So I'm going to move over to the workbench here. So there are a couple of coin collectors that you can get on the Adafruit shop, I think. The one I have is the fancy 4-coin one. And by the way, I'm over in the Discord chat because I don't have the YouTube chat set up here on my little iPad. So if something terrible is happening over in YouTube chat and someone's watching both of them, or there's a huge question or something, let me know. Yeah, Bravo Delta asks, or is answering someone's question, Etcher.io is a really great way to do your burning of your SD cards for Raspberry Pi images, versus it's easier than doing it on a command line, for example, which is how I used to do it. So it's a really nice way to flash your little SD cards to run different operating systems. You can download different images, like Raspbian Stretch is the standard one. For just general use, or in this case, the RetroPie. So this, and let me see, can I zoom this without making anyone too nauseous? All right, so you can see that overhead view, and let's see if I can get that to be the bigger one. So this is one of the coin collectors that we have in the Adafruit shop, and these are pretty cool. So this one will allow you to use 4 different coin types. So you could choose foreign currencies, you could choose to allow nickels and dimes and quarters and 50-cent pieces and so on. So it's an interesting, I've never used one before this morning, I just set this up. So it has its own little microcontroller on board, and before you even plug it into something like another microcontroller or the Raspberry Pi or however you plan to use it ultimately, you will run through a setup process on this where you plug it in, and then using these buttons you go into a mode where you register which types of coins you want. So there's 4 slots. So you go into slot, I think it's A1, and you feed in 20 coins, and it characterizes those within some margin of error. So you put 20 quarters through, or I think you can go up to maybe 40 that you're sampling, which is pretty cool. So it doesn't have any preset notion of what coins you're going to use with it. So you could say, oh, I'm going to find some weird lira from the 1980s in Italy and put that through it, or tokens from I presume you could use tokens from a real arcade, which would be a lot of fun. Downside, I think the only couple downsides I've heard or gotchas are it won't deal well with coins that have holes in them. So that could be a big problem for certain countries. I think it uses some break beam sensing in there potentially to see the sort of speed at which the coin goes through, or the diameter of it or something, and I think it gets tripped up by seeing the beam get broken twice by a coin that has a circle in the center of it. Thank you, C. Grover, for the link there. So I set this up just for quarters, and so if I power this up, so this has its own 12-volt source. So I'm going to set this here for a second. And ignore this. This is a microcontroller that I'm going to use for sort of step 2 of the operation. The power here, when I power it up, it's going to beep. Okay, does that beep? That means it's on. And now if I take a quarter, and let me switch over, if I can show you the little camera here in a vertical orientation. Let's do it this way. So coins that are accepted will fall out the bottom here. So, in fact, I'm going to make this the big screen. Okay, so that's a quarter that was accepted. Here goes a Canadian quarter. Nothing personal against Canada. There we go. Canadian quarter. And you see it rejects it. And there's a little electromagnetic coil in there, like a solenoid, that I think opens. So the path normally for anything that goes through here is just to get rejected. If it likes what it sees, it briefly opens the solenoid and it allows it to drop through. And here's some, what is this one? A loony? A toonie? Is that what I think that's a toonie. I think that's the 2 Canadian, right? I don't know what I'm looking at. I think that's a toonie. No, this is a 2 francs from 1999. I don't know why I have that. All right. So, failed, right? So everything goes through. Here's a nickel. Everything that isn't a quarter goes through. So that's pretty cool on its own. Now, part 2 of what's cool about this is the, let me switch over to that view for you, is, oh, wrong view, sorry about that. The output wiring on the coin collector has a, what do they call this one? Coin. So this wire is going to pulse a certain number of times with a certain, certain duration and frequency when it accepts any of the 4 types of coins that you've characterized. And so you can tell it when I see a quarter come through after characterizing a quarter, pulse once when that goes through for a certain duration. When, let's say, you were allowing 50-cent pieces or dollar coins, you could have it pulse twice or 4 times. So this wire and ground I'm sending over to a little feather microcontroller. And I'm going to actually go to my little down shooter and flip that over for a second. So let me make that the big view. And pardon me for a second while I get that orientation correct on this guy, so that I can show you what I've set up here. And I'm going to pull these wires out. I had to blow the dust off of the shop here. I haven't been in here in a little while because of the break. And let's rotate that and then flip that. Okay, so that's kind of normal for me. So what I've got here, move some of this wiring out of the way. Got a couple things going on. So first of all, there's a Feather M0 Proto microcontroller, and I'm going to set that down there and do a little focus. See if I can get it to focus lock on that. Okay, and can I zoom in? Yeah, that's pretty good. So this little guy here is the microcontroller I'm going to use, and it's going to do a couple things for us. It's going to read the wire coming off of our coin collector and see if a proper quarter goes through. When it sees a proper quarter comes through, first when I was testing this, I used, there's some example code on the Adafruit Learning site for the piggy bank project. If you look at that code, it used an LCD screen and changed the brightness of an LED to let you know how full a piggy bank was getting. I was able to repurpose almost all of that code, and I still have it. I switched the LCD stuff to just serial print statements so I could read what was going on as my quarters went in, and it actually counts up the number of quarters you put in and tells you, oh, you got 25 cents, you got 50 cents, you got 75 cents. So I took that code and, excuse me, I repurposed it to when a quarter goes in, trip a relay. So this is the relay feather wing. It's a non-latching relay feather wing. So what that means is there's this relay on here, which is an electromagnetic switch or an electromechanical switch. When I trip the sensor by putting in a quarter, it closes or makes the circuit for a moment, about a quarter of a second, and then releases. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to be able to take over one of the buttons on the Picade to tell it I have put in a quarter, so press this button for me that is what would normally simulate a quarter going in. So we're no longer simulating it. Now I've taken our non-latching feather, relay feather wing, and I've put this is the little terminal block that you use that connects from the common and the normally open or the normally closed outputs. So these two, and I've just screwed some alligator clip terminal leads onto there, just for testing, and maybe that'll be enough, or I might do something soldered or more permanent later. So those are what will get closed. That's the circuit that gets closed. The other thing I've done here is I've used these low-profile female and male headers. I really like these. It just keeps the whole package small. It feels like a good proportion for the feathers. And I've also put these little screw terminals. I forget what we call these in the shop, but I don't have the bag for it anymore. I don't think I do. These are little rows of screw terminals that fit the spacing on the feather, which is what, 0.1 inch spacing, I think. Or am I wrong? I'm lying. I think it's 0.2. Someone tell me in the chat, please. So I'm using that just to screw things into the board. So I've got ground coming from my coin collector and the power that's going to the coin collector. So that's a common ground. This is this white wire here. I'm going into somewhat arbitrarily pin 10 on the feather, and that's reading whether we have coin pulses or not. And then this yellow wire, this is an interesting one. So the way this feather wing works, there is a, I don't know if you can see it on there, but there's a little, let me point at it. There's a little silkscreen mark on there that says signal. And so that's a header pin or pad that you can solder a wire to and then bridge that to whichever pin on the microcontroller you want to use as the control pin. So telling the relay to open or close is just like telling an LED to light. So I've actually set this into pin 12, which is not a used pin in this configuration. And so pin 12, I go from low signal to high and then back to low, and that's what tells the relay to close and then reopen. And the reason I did it this way is I'm not sure what all I'm going to use in addition to this stuff, so I didn't want to permanently solder that signal wire to one of the pins and then find out later, oh, if I want to add some neopixels to this cabinet, or if I want to do some other input device, or Yanisku suggested RFID. So anything that I wanted to add on, I've still got a lot of potential things I could plug into this, and in sort of the tradition of the way arcade cabinet stuff like this is wired, I've got a bunch of screw terminals to use. So that allows me to unscrew this yellow wire and put it into a different pin. So that's what's going on there. Let me go ahead and close this back up, or reconnect that. And I will show you this in action. So if I give the feather there some power, and I'm just going to power this from a USB micro, so 5 volts. Okay, so that is turned on. You can see there's a little, oh, it just turned itself off. There's a little red LED in there. Is that supposed to be on for power? I hope I didn't break something. I don't think I did. Let's make sure that's plugged in. All right, I think he's on, but one thing I like to do is turn on some LED always when it's on, and I don't think I have it doing that in the code right now. So if all's working, what we should see is I will drop in a quarter. Let me go to this view here so you can see what's going on here. So I'm going to drop in a quarter, and you should see a red LED on my feather wing light up, and the relay is going to click. You might be able to hear that too. And I'm just going to secure this so that it's not flopping around so much in this little vise. I'm also going to get a sip of water. Where did I put that water? Oh, hold on 1 second. And I'll take this opportunity to check out the YouTube chat. Hey Matambale, nice to see you. Happy New Year. Welcome to my Bizarre Friday edition of John Park's Workshop. As you know, I normally do this on Thursdays, but today it's Friday. So here we go. So I've got, if that thing is connected up and working, which I have some doubts, what we should see now is I'll drop a quarter in this slot. I'll lean my mic over here. You should see this light up, showing that the relay has been clicked, and you might even hear the click, but the quarter will be a bit noisy. Let's see. There you go. You saw the light. Let's do that one more time. Oh, it rejected that one. Why? Let's try it again. Oh, it doesn't like that quarter. Is this a fake? What's going on here? Let's try a different one. What's going on? No, that worked. Huh. Maybe it was the angle I'm holding this at, too. I think it wants to be pretty straight up and down, maybe? Shouldn't. Okay, so that's the relay doing its thing. Now, here's where it gets interesting. We're going to take a little look inside of the Picade and see about hooking that relay up to, I'm going to turn it all off for a second, hooking that relay up to one of the inputs that would normally be the button for adding a coin. So just to live dangerously, I'm going to leave this on, and let me switch my camera. Zoom out a bit there, and I will zoom out a bit there, so that you can see inside this. So this is kind of cool. I've just removed 2 screws. So I reached into the back here and removed 2 screws, which allows the control panel with the joystick and these 6 buttons to come up. And there's our gut. So you can see, I'm going to move this camera, just a warning. You can see there is the board. And I can shine a little light in there. Let's see if this thing's still got power. It does. So that's the board that does all the I/O for the Raspberry Pi. And I just happen to know from hooking it up and then playing around with it that this button over here is what currently adds a player, or a coin rather, to the MAME game. So I'm gonna try this out with Miss Pac-Man. So what we want to do is, how about, you know, I'll leave it connected, and there's a reason behind that that I'll explain later. I'm going to leave that button connected. So this is a very easy to defeat coin box, but I'm going to hook up my 2 alligator clips that come from the relay. Let me go back here and just make sure that we're in as good a focus as we can. Yeah. So I don't know if you can see them. There are 2 leads coming off of this button. It's this purple wire and this black wire. So one of those is ground, and I'm going to take out this light for a second so I can use both hands. And the other one is the purple wire running to the insert coin terminal on the Picade board. I don't think it's actually called that, but that's what it's being used for in this case. So pardon my head in the way. Let me switch over to this view for you. Hey, why does that not want to change? Did I get out of the... I think I got out of my app. Yep, I did. A little rusty here. Okay. So I'm just connecting up the relay. And it doesn't matter which one I connect to, actually. Okay, so the relay output now goes to that button. And then let's plug in. Oh, you know what? Actually, I'm going to go out to. Let's see. Let's go back. I'm going to go over to MAME. Hey, some button is being pressed. I think I had that shorted. There we go. So let's head over to MAME and to Miss Pac-Man. Okay, so what you're going to see, and oh boy, I've got a nice glare here. Let's see if I can reposition this camera. And pardon me, I'm going to flip you and rotate you. Yeah, that's, you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to find something to shroud that for a second. Where are all the big things that I would use to do that? That's no good. Yeah, I just need a big black piece of duvetine cloth, and I can't find one. Oh well. All right, we're going to change the brightness on this, and hopefully we'll be able to focus on what we want to see. So, oops. Exposure. Okay, and you know what? I will turn one light off. This is how you know this is a one-man operation, because I got to disappear for periods of time to set things up. All right, that's better. That was the big glare, right? Okay, so you can see here, and I'll zoom in a bit too. Okay, see credits, 0 there. Now, if I press this button, listen to that great noise. All right, it adds a credit. I got 2 credits there. If I put my hand here, you can see it a little better. So what I'm going to do now is plug in the coin acceptor, power it up, and power up our little Feather M0 Proto here. And then we should be able to drop a quarter in and get it to close that same switch that that button closes. Okay, so that's the alarming sound of our coin acceptor booting up. Let me get some quarters over here, and I'm actually gonna, I think if I put this, I have a black Pelican case sitting here that may block some of the glare on the screen. Yes! All right, that's a little better, I think. And I'm gonna angle the screen. Oh, wrong way. All right, you can see those credits, right? Can you stand the suspense? Okay, so let's grab some quarters. And I'm going to just set this little box. I have a little box here. I'm going to set it under the coin acceptor so they don't just roll around. Okay, so watching the credits. Yeah! Now the quarter noise kind of masks the awesome sound, so I'm going to get my, try to get my mic closer to one of these speakers. Oops. Big whip. Big whip. Big whip. We have what, 6? How many credits do we have now? 6 credits. 7, 8, 9, 10. We got a bunch of Pac-Man to play, huh? So that's pretty cool. Let me switch over to this view for a second. I can remove this. So you get the idea. We can take over pretty much any button on here with a relay. You might normally use a let me switch cameras here for a second. You might normally use something like a transistor to control buttons like this. I just honestly, I put this together just a couple of hours ago, and I needed to find some shortcuts. And knowing that we had these little feather wings that are they already have a circuit on it with protection diode and resistors and stuff, so they're really convenient and fast to use. And the fact is, we're not going to be hitting this a ton, so you don't usually want to use a mechanical relay for something that has to hit tens of thousands of times, especially rapidly. But something like putting the quarter through the relay actually works pretty well. So the let me show you, if we want to start to tuck this away, what we'll do is we're going to come in from the back of the machine here. So I think I'll live life dangerously and leave it, continue to leave it turned on. I'm sure that will bite me in the end, but let me switch over to the chat here. Let's see. Did I consider, oh, so C. Grover asks, did I consider using CircuitPython on the M0? Yeah, I had code already that I knew was going to work on the Arduino, so that's the first thing I grabbed and tried. So I think the next move would be maybe to try it out on CircuitPython just to see what it takes. I didn't look that closely at how it's reading the pulses, but I think it should be fairly simple. So I think you probably could do it in the CircuitPython. Also, someone mentions, Bravo Delta mentions, if you feed them too fast, it misses them. Might need to adjust the timeout. Yeah, and I think there's a couple of timeouts to look at. There's one on the coin collector itself, and then there's my timeout that I'm taking to open and close the relay. So if I feed them too fast, that's probably what it's doing. So that's not nice, because then it in fact steals people's quarters if they're excited about shoving them in there. So I'll need to play around with that. And Yanisco says, for Picade coin collector, think Payazzo Games. Payazzo game? I don't know what that is. What is that? Please explain. Okay, so I'm going to move this camera over here so that we can take a look. I'll zoom out on that one as well. Take a look in the guts here, and I will return its exposure to normal as well. Let's make that full screen. Okay. So let's flip this thing around and I'll show you. It's actually, I'll need to pull that back off, but it's actually pretty spacious in here for adding features. I have no idea where we'll actually put the coin collector. I think it may not really fit in here. There's a chance it could go like on the back there, but this is more of a proof of concept than something I think I'm going to permanently add to this. So if it doesn't fit here, then I'd need like a separate coin collection box that runs to this. And again, this is not for profit or anything like that. I've got to be careful to say. This is just for fun and a proof of concept. So let's put a light in there. About. And let me find a tripod to hold that light. I like these little LED panel lights. These are meant to go on top of a camera or a video camera, but I've been finding them handy for, they use a camcorder battery. I've been finding them handy for lighting up stuff like this. There we go. You can see. Yeah. So if I pull the, oh, there's a Finnish gambling game called Pajatso, dating back to the 1920s. It looks like pachinko. I think that's what we would call pachinko in the U.S., which I think was a big gambling game. There's like some whole huge weird history of gambling in New York and pachinko and then pinball getting banned for a while there. Okay, so if we just take our, so this is one of the reasons I like this little feather with these terminals on here, like I said, is I don't really know exactly what I want to add to this, but I know that this should be able to handle a lot of neat stuff, including lighting things or other sound effects beyond what the Pi is doing, because I don't know how much I want to mess with Picade, but I could add on sort of auxiliary things with this. Make a little MP3 player in there, who knows. So I'm just going to feed this through, and I'll leave the coin collector out there. Also, power-wise, I'm just going to do the lazy thing and hook up a second USB for now, but you could certainly, it should be able to tap 5 volts to go into the regulated input, or 3.7 or 3.3-ish might run the feather. Okay, so I can actually close that up, and I'll leave the screws off. This actually hooks into place nicely with some little tabs. And so I've got the ground and the coin pulse wire there, and then a lot of wires to feed. I'll run this along the same side as, and now I can plug in this power and I can close the door. So I just can leave all of that outside and just run. Okay. So now we just have our coin, turn this, whoops. You can see me cheating by just pressing the button there. Take 5 seconds for someone to figure that out, I know. Maybe that's what will keep me from going to jail, publishing this video, the fact that there's just a button there, you don't have to pay, it's totally optional. It'd be kind of cool. Hook that there. Put a little, oh, you can't see that, sorry. Move this right here. I don't think it'll work at that angle, but let's try it. We're also going to have coins rolling all over. All right, so I'm at 11 credits. 12 credits. 13, lucky 13 credits. So there's our coin collector. I don't have a fancy box to put it in there. But now I'm fully ready to actually play some Pac-Man. Oh. And I'm pretty happy with this. It plays pretty well. You know, Pac-Man is very unforgiving of bad controls. You can't possibly do it with anything other than a joystick. You know, I've tried it on game controllers and D-pads and stuff over the years. Whoa. So this one isn't bad. I think a better joystick, I know some people will replace these with their favorite joysticks, and I don't have one. Problem 2 is that. You see what I just did? So right now, oh, you didn't see what I just did because my camera is not showing it. So check this out. If I launch the game, this is my start button. No, it's not. Whoa, back. That's my back button. That's my start button. All this stuff is configurable, but I have a fairly standard configuration on here for a Picade setup. The coin button there, which I'm now able to take over with this, right? I just like doing it because it's fun. Oop, that one failed. Okay. That works for, by default, getting out of a MAME game, or I think most games, I think on all the emulators maybe. You need, I forget what it's called, but you need to set up something as your go back button. And there's options for doing that, but I went with the default, and the default is this same button here that I'm using for adding coins, along with this button, which is the start button. So start and coin is my get out of jail and go backwards. So I need to fix that if I'm actually going to run something like this. You would need to, if you wanted to. So that is kind of what I wanted to build today, and it came together fairly quickly. Like I said, I didn't know exactly how I was going to do it this morning, but I thought, you know what, I've had this coin collector, and I've been thinking about doing some other fancy stuff with it, but let me try this first. The other ideas that I have with the coin collector actually are to do a mystery box escape room puzzle with it. So the fact that you can train it with a sample of some currency or even maybe objects that aren't really coins within some tolerance, probably certain discs of metal would work. The fact that you can train it and it can deal with 4 of them, that this one can. There's also a cheaper one, by the way, that we sell on Adafruit that I think you can set up for just quarters. And so if you're looking to do this, this one may be overkill if you just want to use a single type of coin. I'll call it a quarter. But if you had tokens or something else. This one, since it does 4, you could probably do some pretty cool combination style puzzles where you have someone collect 8 different coins from around an escape room or in a puzzle scenario, and then need to feed in certain order 4 of them, right? You throw them off the scent by not just having 4 types of coins, but then by solving other puzzles, they may need to drop in, you know, a quarter, a dime, a nickel, a quarter, a quarter, a quarter, a quarter, a dime, and that's your combination that then opens something or does something incredible or does an Easter egg on an arcade cabinet or who knows what. So I think this thing actually has a lot of potential for that. So I may play around a little bit with setting up multiple types of coins and see what I can do with that. So let's see, I'll head over for a second and show you, since I mentioned the code and hadn't taken that close of a look at it myself, I'll be honest. I got it up and running, and that's all I had time for. Let's take a look. Actually, I'm going to set up over here on the computer. I'll give you this to look at for a moment while I build another window that will look just at Arduino, and instead of the normal window capture, I'll point at the application, which means that my cursor will line up with where you're seeing it and where I'm pointing it. So pardon me for a second. I'm going to do a new window, select window or monitor. Where's Arduino? There you are. Coin. Okay. Okay. And I'll just move me out of the way a little bit. Can I move it? Yeah, I can move it over there. Oh, do I need to push that change? I do. Okay, so this is the code I'm running. And some of the stuff that was in there before I have just commented out, and you'll still see it there. And can I increase the font with just this, I thought, or just this? Yes. Yes? Is that working? No, it's not. Sorry about that. Let me go to the Arduino preferences. I want to make it a little more legible for you. Here we go. Font editor size. Let's make it 18. Is that going to be ginormous? There you go. You can see that. So this was code I think Lamore had written with Becky Stern to do the piggy bank. So there's just that one wire coming off of the coin collector, and you want to put that into a digital input pin. Remember, I was using pin 10 because I don't think there is a digital 2 on the feather. That might be like a I2C or MISO or MOSI or one of those pins. So pin 10 I changed it to. I've commented out, this is the stuff for using the LCD backpack, which I wasn't using. So you can ignore all that. Defining colors you can ignore. So here's where we actually do stuff. So I defined coin as pin 10. This is, I'm not really using this. There's the onboard LED I decided to set is the one that's adjusting its brightness as coins go in, but we're not really using that. And then I defined a pin here, pin 12, as the output for the relay, and that's the one I connected signal to. Then we set up some outputs for the pin modes on the LED and the relay, and I turned the relay low, which means don't close the circuit of it, stay open. And then we set up serial so that I can just test some messages while debugging it. And the coin is an input pin, so that's set to an input mode. And then the loop, we are writing out to the LED and then doing a digital read on coin. And yeah, so this is it. So it's just reading these pulses. And when the pulses are within this range, it counts as a coin going through. I think mine are doing a 30 millisecond pulse or something like that. So that's something you have to adjust both on the coin collector and in your software to make sure they agree. And you get a little bit of a range there. And that's about it. So when we, let's see, where did I put the actual relay doing something? Where did I put you? I remember not making much of a big deal about it. All right, let me do a find in here. We'll ignore case. Here it is. So when we get a coin, because this condition was true and we return, coins get added, and sorry, there goes a plane. I turn the relay on for a moment, which is 1/5 of a second, and then close it back or reopen it. So that's it. That's all that happens in the Arduino code for that. And let's head over to the chat and see if anyone's got thoughts, comments, and questions. Oh my God, the code has oink oink like a pig inside the code. Yes, it does. It was originally doing a piggy bank thing. All right. Let's see. Any questions in this chat? No? How about this chat? Hey, Nate Larson. Yes, the chat is monitored by Adafruit, and mostly I watch the Discord chat because I only, for some reason, so I got to solve this in the new year. I have an iPad, and with whatever the current version and operating system's on there, I was able to, when I first started doing my live show, I was able to split screen with the YouTube chat and the Discord chat. And then they just changed in like one of the updates how you swipe to split screen, and I just haven't learned the new one. Once I learn to do that, I will be back on the YouTube chat during the show. Okay, I promise. How about before next Thursday's show, I will be on both chats. Lupe Lopez, yeah, I don't know that we have too many people on Twitch. So, by the way, if you're wondering, and I love all you people on YouTube, but your chat goes away as soon as the live show ends. We actually have no way to go back. And so if there's an interesting conversation or someone wanted to loop back and answer someone about something, we lose that. It's a very ephemeral chat, the one that happens on YouTube Live. So that's why we like Discord, because it's persistent. You can always go back and search stuff. I think everyone can put links on Discord, and I don't think most people other than moderators can put links into the YouTube. So Chris Ree says, build an acrylic side attachment. Yeah, that would be cool. I could pop a little like box out of the side of the Picade to do a little coin collector area, maybe even make it out of clear acrylic so that you can see all the money that you're raking in. But again, don't make money off of this. This is just for fun. What else? Other questions? MAME, someone asks, JN Bridges. Yeah, MAME is one of the emulators that you can run under the RetroPie. Chuck E. Cheese tokens. Oh, that's a good idea. I would love to get some old tokens. Gosh, it's sad, but I can't remember now. What was the name of the arcade we had? I grew up in the Hudson Valley in New York, and at the South Hills Mall, there was an arcade there. That's where I did a lot of my arcade playing. That and the roller rink in Hyde Park, but I think that was quarters. I don't think they did tokens. Could be wrong. Let's see. Other questions? Happy New Year. All right. Well, we are just about out of time, and I think I'll end it there. I said I had one little thing to share. Okay, let me actually, I have just a second, so let me share this. I don't think we'll have time to even hook up quality audio. Actually, let me try that, because I'm crazy. Hold on. I'm going to get a cable. So I am super excited about this little synthesizer that I got for Christmas, which is a series of them from Teenage Engineering. Here it is. This is called the Pocket Operator, and holy cow, do I love this thing! So let me put the output to a. Oh, do I have an adapter? All right, I'm just going to play it into my lavalier mic here. So let's do it in a way you can see it and you can hear it. There's my mic right there. Okay, so let me turn up the volume all the way. You can hear that? So this thing rules. It's got two knobs you can use to change if they're synthesized sounds, or some of them I think are waveform. I think on this one, actually, they're all synthesized. So you can change a couple of the parameters on them, but it's also a step sequencer. So you've got 16 buttons on here, so you can save patterns. Let's see if this is one. And that's one that I made a fairly simple little sequence, but they've got some fancy ones on here. Yeah. And it's got a lot of effects built into it, so you can do things like beat repeats. Awesome. So I love this little thing, and as you can tell, just looking at it, that it is definitely hackable on some levels. They've built some outputs for speakers here, some pads for outputs for speakers there. There's some power and ground in here, so I think if you wanted to do away with these batteries and plug it into something, you could get away with something there. And then there are not traces for the buttons. There are for the knobs, though. I tried last night playing around with attaching different types of like resistive touch potentiometers instead of these knobs, which is kind of cool. So you could solder onto those pads, which is neat. And then what I've tried is just grounding some of these, so you could solder some wires to all 16 of these if you wanted to play it with like arcade buttons. And if you look online, there's a couple of people have done that. That's one of the most popular mods for it. And these things sync. There's a way to set it into a mode where if you plug multiple of them into each other, you can have click track of the tempo that the master is setting running on one channel and the sound running on the other. So it's mono at that point, but it doesn't matter. It's awesome. It's really fun. So I ended up getting a bass one that does like kind of bass stuff, and then a proper drum machine. Anyway, I'm excited about this because, you know, I like little bleepy sound things and music stuff. I might try my hand at making some songs for my videos with those. But anyway, I'm thrilled about that, and if you have ideas for mods on that, let me know, or if you just want to chat about that stuff, I'll be in the Discord chat. I know some of you, C. Grover, you're into music, right? You play like electronic music out there, so I bet you have opinions on these things. So anyway, thanks everyone so much for stopping by for John Park's Workshop, first one of 2018, and I will see you in just a few short days on next Thursday, and who knows what we'll be building. Bye-bye.